Finding Baba Yaga by Jane Yolen, a First Chapter Friday read aloud video with the word nerd. Today, as you listen, watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down, word by word, and then follow the directions given to you by your teacher. Stay all the way to the end to see if you've written it down correctly. Before we jump into reading Chapter 1, I want to give you a quick reminder that I have made student engagement graphic organizers that go along with all of my videos. There are both generic worksheets that you can use with any novel, and specific sheets like this one for Finding Baba Yaga by Jane Yolen. If you haven't given them a try yet, click the link in the description box to see what they're all about. Hi, my name is Amanda Zieba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. This week I'm going to be reading to you from Finding Baba Yaga by Jane Yolen. And before I tell you a little bit more about this author and this book, I want you just to look at this cover and appreciate how stinking gorgeous it is. It's just, every time I look at it, I see something new and different, and it just pulls me in and wants me to know about the story. Now, if you're seeing this name Jane Yolen and you're like, gosh, that name sounds so familiar, you would be right, because Jane has been writing books for children and teachers and classrooms for decades, literally decades. She's in her 80s now, and she has, I'm going to let you guess because I love doing this with you guys. How many books do you think Jane has written? Call it out. Let me hear you. Okay, it's definitely higher than that. Keep going. Getting closer. Okay, are you ready for the answer? You guys, Jane has written over 400 books. 400 books, that's amazing. I tried to look through my library to see if I had any of them for you, but I only came up with one. Like The Devil's Arithmetic and Owl Moon, and this one, which was always a classic in my house, How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? So if you're hearing the name Jane Yolen, like my son did when he came into my office and saw this book, he's like, hey, I know her. I'm like, yeah, you do, because she's a rock star author. I'm going to read the back of this book so you know what it's about, and then I'm actually going to read you the foreword, and it's a very short book. It has chapters, but it's special in so many different ways. Let me show you how. You think you know the story, but you do not. A harsh, controlling father, quiescent mother, a house that feels anything but a home. Natasha gathers the strength to leave and comes upon a little house in the wood, a house that walks about on chicken feet and is inhabited by a fairy tale witch. In finding Baba Yaga, Natasha finds her voice, her power, and herself. This is a contemporary retelling of an iconic myth by a beloved and prolific American storyteller. And the endorsement on the front comes from Neil Gaiman. So if you know that Neil has read your work, you know that you are winning. Here's the foreword, and it's just going to give us a little bit more history and context and background for the story, and it will make everything else make more sense. Here's what you need to know about Baba Yaga, the great, iconic Russian fairy tale witch. She lives in a house in the wood that walks about on chicken feet. She calls to it, turn about, little house, turn to me, and it rotates until its front door is right before her. She flies around in the sky in a human-sized mortar, the kind used for grinding herbs. You know, like that bowl that they use the pestle and they grind the herbs. She flies around in a big one of those. Okay? She has an iron nose and iron teeth. Smart and bold little girls like Vasilisa work for her and are rewarded. But Baba Yaga devours naughty boys. Some stories say she has a fence around her house made of the bones of children she has eaten, but that fence also migrated in storyland to the house of the Hansel and Gretel witch, so I have put it there instead. Baba Yaga represents the ageless life force. She's a magical crone, once both feared and worshipped by Russian peasants. In fact, these days around the world, she is better known than any other Russian folktale character, more popular than Vasilisa, Kostachi, the Deathless, or the Firebird. She's appeared in novels, graphic novels, movies, and TV series. Added to that, Baba Yaga is both my hero and the nightmare figure in my dreams. I have taken all the characteristics, added a modern family, and the rest is a novel in verse that mixes Russian folklore and American realism. So, I will tell you that I flew through the story. It is a really quick one. It's very fast, short. Poems on the page are quick. But I feel like I want to read it again because I would take so much more from it, especially if I was able to talk to other people about it. And so I would encourage you to do that. Let this kind of be your first taste, your starting, but then read it and then read it again and talk about it. One of my favorite things to do while I was reading it was pick out just like one or two poems that were my favorite, that even out of context from the story, they said something powerful to me, and I would want to keep them. So I took pictures of them with my phone. Um, so yes, okay. Finding Baba Yaga by Jane Yolen. And this is a little prelude, and it says, "You think you know this story. You think you know this story. You do not. You think it's about a princess who runs away from a wicked king. It is not. You think it's about a charming prince who rescues, relieves, releases a maiden from her tower. It is not. Surely there must be pumpkin, huntsman, coach, some dwarves, a troll, riding hood, ring, wand. There is not. Stories retold are stories remade. Sorrowing girl in a house, an old witch with iron fillings, a hut in the wood, in the meadow, in the hood. This is a tale both old and new, borrowed, narrowed, broadened, deepened. You think you know this story? You do not." Okay, we finally made it to chapter 1, and it is called The Last Fight. There's a nice little picture that goes with it. The first poem is called Papa Says, Mama Says. It's not a conversation, but serial monologues, each one waiting for that breath space to say his own, her own piece. Peace. There is no peace in this house. Only strips of paper, tatters of cloth, slivers of glass, slit lips and tongues. I pick up the shards and put me to bed every night. Wake up in pieces every day because of what Mama says, Papa says, I don't say. Argument. At first, no one screams, trading whispered accusations. Papa means, Mama means. At first, no one listens. Words like filth hang between us. Tears glisten. At first, no one forgets. Anger anchored way too deep in an ocean of regrets. At first, no one thinks it matters. Papa said, Mama said, night shatters. At first, no one denies the sliver of surprise beneath each glossy nail. At first. The word that shatters trust. Papa does not let us swear. Words, he says, bind the world. Otherwise, we shatter the trust God gave us in this life. Good words, logos, he calls it, God's words in the beginning. It's why he's so careful with them, doling them out like a miser on Christmas morning. But bad words he calls bogus, confusing anger with sin. Sometimes a bad word is punctuation to a bad day, makes us laugh, gives us courage, lifts the heart. Swearing can be held too tight in the heart. Speaking it aloud, an artifact, an art. The goodest word, the God-est word. Has Papa ever said love without warning? Has he ever said love with warming? Has he ever said love without worry? Has he only said love in a weary way? Has he ever really said the word love? And that's where Natasha is when we stop reading Finding Baba Yaga. She's about to embark on her own journey to find the witch in the woods. And I hope you'll pick up a copy of this book and read it. You can probably find it in your school library or maybe purchase it from your favorite local indie bookshop. And if you can't find it those places, I will leave a link for it down in the description box. Thank you guys so much for joining me here for this First Chapter Friday video. I hope you'll come back again. I'll see you next time. Happy reading! To continue reading Finding Baba Yaga by Jane Yolen, pick up a copy from your school library, purchase one from your favorite local indie bookstore, or grab it via the link in the description box. Then be sure to check out the rest of the First Chapter Friday playlist. I've got over 140 middle grade and young adult novels waiting for you. This week's mystery manuscript quote says, "Stories retold are stories remade." Thanks so much for visiting my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. I hope you come back here again for more First Chapter Fridays, brain breaks, teaching tips, and more. I'll see you again next time. Happy reading.